Well, let's get into it. So today we got Joey Hiykel, Shawn Clark, and Brad Vasko. Brad's been on before, but it's been quite some time now. It's a little different, the show. But
yeah, it's so much
nicer. Is this when you cue the applause?
Yes. These guys are down here for some watch some racing, and we figured we'd get them on to talk about what they do, which is mostly
racing.
Racing, yes. I was going to say no prep racing, but you do some prep. What is it? What would you consider it? Because
all of the above, I guess. Street racing, no prep, some prepped.
Yeah. So if you don't know Joey Hiykel, he owns Beater Bomb, probably most well-known Fox body on any no prep surface ever, I would say. I think anybody that's ever watched racing videos in any form probably has seen Beater Bomb in some different shape. It's got a 4JZ in it or 8JZ.
6JZ. Yeah. We talked about this earlier.
Yeah. Whatever Fred calls it that day is what it has in it. And it's just kind of a cool car that you've always been super secretive about. I know.
Up until recently.
Yeah. You just decided you were like, oh, I guess I'll just tell everybody it's a twin-turbo big block.
Yeah. I just got bored, and it was cool for a long time, and we would go to races anywhere and everywhere and didn't need to take the hood off, ever. I mean, literally never had problems. Every once in a while, pulled the car into the trailer, shut the doors, armed guards outside, everything.
People with video cameras were always trying to get in there.
Yeah,
mostly 1320 video. There's so many 1320 videos on the car.
Right, and that's probably because we live in the same city. So obviously, growing up, I knew Kyle and all of his employees, Fred most notably, you know, and we're the same age roughly, and we hung out even not racing. So yeah, they did a lot of videos on the car.
So it's more of like a circumstantial coincidence that car blew up alongside of them growing as a channel.
Exactly.
Like you kind of were in the right place at the right time with that car.
Yep, for sure. They needed cars to film, and it helped me get my name out there. So
and then that probably also led you to a lot of races with people seeing the car that wanted to race it at that point.
Oh, so many people are just, I want to race that thing.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because I am not that way. I'm not out there to race X, Y, or Z. I'm out there to just win.
Well, we had I was talking yesterday with this dude Nate that was on, and he was saying how so many people won't even do shootouts, they'll only grudge race. And that was confusing to me, because I've only ever really class raced, I guess, street car, where you get a ladder and you race the ladder.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I am that same sort. Some people aren't like that. They want to race big names just to say they did, honestly, and I'm out there just to race.
Yeah, it confuses me a little bit, because I love like the shootout style where you may go 4 rounds versus going just like one guy that you have to argue back and forth for.
Too many people want, I want the back tire. You can't have 2 turbos, and I'm just not into that. Let's just race and see who's faster.
Well, it's interesting too, because even no prep, I don't know how to classify it either, because no prep is so vague. There's back of the track, there's the pad, there's more in the woods. Like, these surfaces don't all count as like the same no prep, really.
Oh no, anytime you get to the front side of a racetrack, it's all really good. I mean,
yeah, do you consider that no prep still, like I-29 where you guys normally race? Like, yes, it's
no
not sprayed.
Prep. Yeah,
but they don't scrape either.
No, and scraping it usually makes it better, honestly. We don't get ever scared about the surface if they scrape it, because the worst part, the way you make a surface the worst is when there's too much rubber and then it just peels. And that's how it gets so bad, I believe. So when promoters scrape the racetrack, unless they're like grinding it down to bare concrete, it usually comes around pretty fast, especially after first round. You're
it doesn't matter.
Going pretty fast. Yeah.
That's what it always seemed like the you could probably almost put a radial tire.
Oh, for sure. I mean, certain cars definitely they do race on radials and do very well at it. I believe unless the rules state you have to have a radial, you know, slicks are always going to be better. More consistent is the name of the game, I feel
So
like.
funny. Such different, like, across the country is so different because in
crazy.
Bradenton, if anybody's building a car that's not on a
Radial prep.
like what are you going to do with it?
Yeah. Is there even any no preps down in Florida?
No, once you cross
so.
into Florida, it's done. It's all radial prep. Even
I
South
believe
Georgia
it.
is all radial prep.
Yeah.
They love glue in this area.
Yeah.
Which I'm all for. I like glue, but you get that upset people because the inconsistency.
That's the worst thing. I tune several cars that radial race, and it's not about changing your car to adapt to the racetrack. It's about waiting for the racetrack to adapt to you. And like you're all going out there as to swing for the fences, and it's either going to hook or it's not.
Yeah, and even traction control, you can only rely on that so much on a radial car.
It's tough.
Once you get
tough.
into that, it's pretty much a wash.
Yeah.
Once it hits the drive shaft curve, I guess.
Yeah, and it's like you might beat the other guy if he spun, but if he didn't spin, it's kind of over with.
Ideally, too, because if you can get into traction control and still beat the guy, it probably wasn't a good enough race
no
to
way.
be doing. Like,
Not even close.
yeah, you'd want to be close racing, which is nice. I see a lot of the like back of the track stuff seems really close racing.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably 10 cars in the country that are all really, really close, and they do well at it. However, the bad thing is, that's all they race, which is very tailored to a lot of cars.
Yeah.
Previous years, we raced to where we could do it all, and other cars have gotten faster and faster, and you can't change your car around enough, the combination enough to be the best at every single one anymore. It's kind of, you have to follow that avenue of what you think is the best for your program, and that's why we sort of just race front side no preps anymore, and instead of back of the track stuff. And street racing's a whole different subject. I mean, the cops have gotten so much worse, and why, I don't know, because I mean, people have street raced for plenty of years, and
I think it's current street racing is if you have a street race that's got like 20 cars and you have a flyer and a live feed and food truck, I think you've passed where you should stop street racing.
Yeah, it's no longer a street race.
Yeah, at some point you have to be like, I think we should go to a track.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
so you believe it's social media has made it worse.
I think people have lost sight of the fact that street racing is still illegal. You can't. You can't bring the circus to the street and then expect people not to know about it.
You can't promote it for a month.
Exactly.
To
Like
be
you
like
said,
an
have
event.
a flyer, and
Yeah.
you got 5,000 spectators out there. Like the cops are going to know. Everybody else does.
Oh,
The
yeah.
live feed at a street race is a little
yeah.
crazy, like an official live feed with sponsors and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't like to hate on street racing, but I think it just gets to a point where just go to a track.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
go
oh, yeah.
have this event at a track.
Agreed.
Get some
For real.
spectator money.
Yeah.
Like you can make money if you just go to a track.
Yeah, and I mean, backtrack racing is pretty bad surface.
I mean, a lot of backtrack stuff that we've seen or been to is worse than a lot of streets we've been down.
Oh, yeah.
And these tracks will have you. They're looking for events.
Oh, yeah.
So to take a event and go like 50 miles from a track and do it in like a shady parking lot or behind like a Applebee's or whatever they do it at,
Right.
you might as well just go to a track. And I always kind of sound like the track like police, I guess you could
Yeah.
say, saying that, but I don't know.
No, it's the truth.
Yeah, it is.
Street racing should be a little hush hush, I guess. you
Yeah,
could say.
coming from us that have street raced, I mean, it just isn't the same anymore.
And there's been a trend, it seems like, in the last few years where people want to find the worst road, which I get street racing, the surface is the equalizer or whatever, but you don't need to go find the most narrow 10-foot ditch on both sides, chip and seal garbage that you couldn't go faster than, 670s down. Who
Like
wants
if
to
there's
do
a
that?
tree in the middle, that's perfect.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's what they look for, and that's at least how we feel the last couple years have been, and like you said, track racing's much more fun. I have a family now. We can take them too, and it's much more streamlined. Sure, there are some downfalls to track racing, you know, some, as I call it, the tractor nationals at radial events, or oil spills is just part of it.
But like a NoPrep event should be fairly quick. And if there is an oil down, at least they can clean it up. If you have an oil down at a street race and there's actual pairs of cars, what do you do? Like,
I mean, you move. They go to a different spot.
And then you have to, like, I think if you have like a 35-foot trailer at a street race, I think that's a little extreme.
Well, some people bring stackers and RVs, and that's what I'm saying. It's gotten to be a lot. 2-day events and
also I don't want to go anywhere where it starts at 3 a.m.
Well,
round 1 is 3 a.m.
Yeah.
We're all getting old that it's like I'm not up for staying.
Brad went to the last one street
I'm
race
old,
with us
okay,
in
so I'm
Kansas
like,
City.
I'm going to be 40 this year. And we went to that one in Kansas City.
Yep.
It was.
We didn't meet up till what? Midnight or 1?
And I had never been up for that long in my entire
You're up
life.
for 24 hours.
Yeah.
I
That's what it looked like.
The amount of street races we've been to where we've run the finals in the daylight.
Oh,
and it started at night.
Oh, yeah.
And you're dead
just gets
tired.
too much on
You've
you.
unloaded the car 15 times.
That's the
The
worst.
dew is starting to set in
That
pretty
too.
bad.
Or
That
it
gets
set in
scary.
an hour ago.
Yeah.
At the racetrack, at least you unload it once.
Right.
And then load it back up with
Right.
lose or your win.
Yeah.
And a lot of tracks are trying to push for back of the track and no prep style at the track, and they have to adapt. I know you guys run a bunch of events at I-29.
Yeah.
Which is a cool track for it because it feels very street.
It's got bumps and
It's not like an NHRA facility where
It's sporty.
Have you ever been to one of them?
sporty.
I've been to Ice Cream Cruise a couple times,
Okay.
so
Right.
I've seen it a little bit.
So I don't race as much as I would like to, but going to those races, you know, I live in Kansas City and they're up in, you know, Iowa, Omaha area.
2 hours north.
And so it'll take me, 2-3 hours to drive up there. I can drive up there, go to one of those races. It's ran so smoothly. It's like people need to take notes on how that is ran because you'll go there and you'll do it. And I can literally, last time I was there, the owner of the track was like, hey, here's your money for second place. I was like, what? He was tracking me down in the pits.
Yeah.
And literally, I made it home before midnight.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the races at, US 36, I'm there till midnight and they haven't even done anything. It's like, why don't we just start this a little bit earlier and get it done earlier? But it's just really, really well ran.
Well, also with a street style race, you're not going to do 12 rounds of qualifying before anything even
Straight
starts.
off the trailer.
It's most are off the trailer.
Or one test hit, maybe.
This last year, the events I put on, the fall event I implemented where if you lost once, you're still in it, and we split the ladders and stuff. But most events are off the trailer, and sometimes there's a second chance race and stuff like that. But yeah, like we're obviously going to go to the U.S. Street Nationals this weekend, and they've been racing all week. I mean,
they've already been there.
They've been
many
there.
days.
They've been there since Sunday.
Wearing their cars out.
Oh gosh.
Well, they're testing for Sick Week up in Orlando right now.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my buddy. I was like, man, those guys have been there testing for Sick Week for 3 days already.
Yeah.
What the heck are they thinking? That's hard on those cars already before you even drive it 1 mile.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. We go test maybe one day, and you either got it figured out or you have to go back to the garage and make adjustments. It's not something we need to go to the racetrack for all week.
Yeah, even like we were just talking, if I have to make more than like 3 or 4 test passes at a test and tune, I've gone too far. That is too many. I need to figure something else out a little better.
Right.
They were just talking, and Brett and Jim, when they made 3,000 horsepower-ish on their dyno, they made 12 dyno pulls. I was like, that's a hefty amount, because they were just trying different things, doing that, doing this. And that's so many dyno pulls.
That's a lot of wear and tear.
Yeah. Doing that on the track would be like unheard of.
How many sets of tires they going through? That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's nutty. But so the Fox gets kind of a lot of hate though too in that aspect, just the Fox body platform in general.
Oh yeah, I mean everybody has one, but I mean I will say I've had this particular same exact one for shoot, I think it's been
Before it was
16,
cool, is what you're
18
gonna
years.
say.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Back
I
when
got
it
it
had a
in
carburetor on it.
2008, so quite a few years ago, and it started out as a 4-cylinder, you
Yep.
know, similar to the Camaro, some stick shift 4-cylinder,
Just
and
junk engine that you gotta
Junk
get rid
and
of as
just-
soon as possible.
you know, and I drove it for a little while like that, towed around some jet skis and 4-wheelers, all the toys I had at the time, and eventually I was like, I had a different Mustang that was built, and it was Ford powered. It wasn't that fast. So,
Was it a Fox also?
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. My very first car was a Fox convertible.
Oh man.
So pretty heavy. I raced it a lot, street raced it a lot around Omaha, and
is it like a small block Ford in there? Just like
it was, yeah. Started out as 5.0 and
Mm-hmm.
347 blower and turbo, and so the beater bomb came about, and it's a notch, so it was a lot lighter, and
Yeah.
I saw a naturally aspirated LS Fox body racing in Kansas City, and I decided, man, that thing's fast because I was used to Ford powered stuff. Ford powered stuff takes a lot of money to go fast.
especially then.
Yeah.
It's not as developed
No,
as it is right now.
no.
You're not playing around coyotes back then.
No,
Well, even
no.
the small block Ford stuff's pretty well developed now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they're going really fast on
Yeah.
that deal.
So I decided, you know, I'm going to swap this thing out and put an LS motor in it and tear up the streets. And I did for a while, put nitrous on it and progressed and finally switched it over to turbo. Brad, obviously, we met up in Kansas City at some car show because Kansas City is not that far from Omaha. And so the street guys around Omaha would travel to Kansas City to race, you know.
That scene was kind of connected.
Yes,
I guess.
yeah, it's not that far away. And so we met at a car show and hit it off from there. And Brad built the first turbo kit on mine and just spiraled
What was
out
it?
of control.
What was it then? Was it just like a single turbo? Was it
Yep.
auto
Yeah.
car?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's been through so many different variations. I mean, it was like, and of course, it's so weird now because like Joey's, used to be so secretive. So now it's like it's
Well,
not.
it doesn't matter anymore. They're all old
Exactly.
combos.
I know, but it's like
But
you.
Brad had to
It's
lock
not like anybody's
the
ever
shop
gonna
up.
see it,
Like,
Oh yeah. Oh,
people
yeah.
wanted to come over to pick their cars up. Nope. Had to put it outside.
Hey, we still have car covers.
Yeah, oh
for it,
yeah. There's
but
a car
yeah.
cover with my name on it.
Just as
But yeah, it was a single turbo at the time,
Yeah.
and then we had air to water on it for a while.
Oh gosh.
And then remember we moved
Yeah,
the air to water to
horrible.
the back seat,
oh yeah.
and you had all that piping ran through
Yeah.
the car, and then
and what was this, like 2012?
Yeah, around there,
Yeah.
13,
12.
14.
It'd have been 13, 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
So turbos obviously weren't what they are now.
no,
No.
no.
It was
The
what, a
information wasn't as out
5.3
there.
and an
Right.
yeah,
S480.
yeah. S484 was the first one. 5.3. I don't even think it had pistons in it. Maybe.
The first one was, well, wasn't it a 4.8?
Yeah.
The same old
I don't
4.8.
know. So
And that was
long
when you
ago.
like street drove.
Oh,
it,
yeah.
where like you would see just like a hit at like a
Yep.
red light
Yeah, oh,
versus
yeah.
somebody, not
Yep.
like a show up to a planned
No,
spot. as
no.
much.
There was only one orchestrated cash days that we would do a year,
Yeah, the
and
ice
that was
cream
at
cruise
Ice Cream
one.
Cruise.
That was like the only shootout.
Yeah.
We'd race that one
That
time
was-
a year, and then everything else was just kind of going around,
Right.
screwing around.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much has developed since
No,
then.
yeah, and I mean we'd race for $500 maybe.
Right, yeah.
It was
Now there's
It
like
was-
$50,000 races
Oh,
going
yeah.
on every weekend.
Yeah.
Somewhere. That's
so no,
nuts.
it spiraled out of control from there and raced the single turbo LS for till 2019, I think.
because we moved it out front. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
There was no hiding that it was
No.
turbo then.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you can
Big
only
block.
hide so much, anyways. Just if you can hear a car well and you can smell the
you
fuel.
would think.
Yeah.
You would think. But That is not how it goes.
I like to think I'm smart enough to be able to hear what a car has
maybe
in
you,
it.
but 99% of the other people would be like, is that a small block Ford?
Yeah, it had a big block in it for 2 or 3 years, and
Yeah.
people were still, is that a small block Ford
Yeah,
or an
they
LS? Or it's like,
No, that's got some thump to the your chest there.
Yeah, you can feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, we switched to the big block in 2020 season, I think, and
yeah.
Brad and I decided, to do full big build. Oh my God,
It needed it though,
The-
because
Oh my
we
God.
went-
this thing was rocking an 850
yeah,
cage
850 cage
until that
It was sketchy.
Yeah.
a poorly installed 850
Yeah.
cage.
So yeah, the 2019 was when our buddy Joe passed away in a drag racing accident. That kind of like
Helped us really. yes.
really push over this hump
Kind
because
of the kick in the butt that was needed a little bit.
I mean, because
Yeah.
we knew this was going to be
Exactly.
a big project, and
And it's one of those things that everybody overlooks it because it's so easy to make horsepower and go fast nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
That everybody's just like, I just want to go fast. They don't care about the safety stuff that's going to protect you. And it's like you can go fast all you want, but if you don't make it at the end of the drag
Yeah.
strip, what's the point? you know?
yeah,
I see it all the time. I mean, I get on all my friends for that because all these, like, especially like an S550 Mustang that comes with a Coyote, you put turbos on that thing.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're going like 780s.
You're right.
Yeah.
With turbos, unopened motor, stock trans. And it's
Right.
like, oh, that
It's
doesn't
too
make
easy
sense.
to make
Like,
that much power,
Yeah.
but nobody wants to, and it's not cheap to do safety stuff, and nobody
Especially in
wants
a
to
new
spend-
car.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
Fox body's a little better
Right,
because you're not
right.
as worried about cutting them up. But
Right.
You get some 2022 car and you're like, oh, now I got to put a 25.3 cage in this
I
thing?
know.
Right.
And now it's a
Doesn't make
race
sense.
car.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, no, it's like we said, it's a tough hump to get over, but overall, I mean, it took us 3 or 4 months during the winter driving back and forth to Kansas City. Brad working on it during the week some, and it's, I mean, well worth it.
The car
obviously.
probably got better though too, not just safety
Yeah.
because of the
way.
stiffness of the
Yeah.
chassis.
100%. I mean, it's just you got a platform to work off of when you need to do upgrades and
Well, and everything changed bumper to bumper.
yeah,
Like,
I mean,
it went from small block,
to big
that
block,
sketchy
and-
cage, to big block, 25.2.
Yeah,
And you guys had you had a learning year. I mean,
yeah. One
Yeah,
year
we sucked
We
in
sucked.
2020 for sure.
That's great about no time though. Nobody really knows
Yeah.
if you sucked or if
Yeah,
you
that's
were slow.
true. I mean, we were still fast. There was a lot of second place finishes.
Yeah,
and-
God, yeah.
But there was a couple towards the end. We won War in the Woods, one of them, and
It started out really good because we took it to a street race and I think we made 2 hits at
Yeah.
Lincoln and then went and won a street race.
Oh, yeah.
The very first race we entered, and then
a lot of promising,
yeah.
lot of promising numbers on
we
the
were
draggy.
we were
and-
like, oh yeah, we got this figured out.
Right.
And then
Felt like you were
I don't-
back.
kicking the pants.
I
you got
think-
the reality check.
Oh yeah.
yeah, I
Use
think
a
it was
draggy
just
in that
from.
thing. It doesn't have like a nice fancy traction control box that tells you
Oh
all
no,
your
that,
printout.
that's overrated.
One of those deals that prints you out a slip
Yeah.
basically after
Yeah.
your pass.
It says you
yeah,
suck.
For 2020, that's what it would have said.
those are 2 adjustable. You can make the numbers tell you what you want to see.
Oh yeah.
A draggy, you
they
turn
don't
it on
lie.
and that's it.
Yeah.
Like a heartbreaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
So-
good tools for the street, but yeah, I mean, I've seen some of those, like the Davis traction stuff. They give you a pretty good readout of your slip,
Yeah,
too.
if you've got it, there's an adjustment you can do to make it dialed in. If you make enough passes, you can get it dialed in. And it's another tool for sure.
And there's definitely less people, I feel like, that are really good with a Davis box as well.
Yeah, they're complicated for sure. A normal average racer is gonna have a tough time figuring it out for
Yeah.
sure.
Like, it's going to take quite a few trial and error,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
which in a race car, trial and error is just money
Oh,
spent.
a lot of it. Yeah.
All
Trial
week
and
at the
error
racetrack.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dialing that thing in when you could just pay a tuner the huge sum that
Right.
that they want.
Right.
They just call you up and help you get their car dialed in
yeah,
on the street a little quicker.
I mean, I've
It works
opened
very
that
well.
avenue for sure, and I've helped a lot of people out and seen a lot of success from it. There's a lot of years that I've been doing this and tried a lot of things. I mean, that was why we sucked so bad in 2020 is because just sitting there trying a lot of things, and probably would have been best to just leave it alone, but that's not how it goes. You want to try to get faster, and that's what I feel like, you know, the success is from, is knowing what changing one thing does and
knowing what not to do.
A big swing is tough because you kind of have to pick everything back up again because it's completely different.
Right.
So that's like that I've always worried about on my personal cars is like these big swings that I'm like, maybe was I just lucky, or can I get it back to where I was?
Right.
That's what's tough.
You just got to know where you were and compile a list of the stuff that doesn't work.
Right.
Which we spent
Taking
a year
notes
doing that.
is good. You know, logbook really helps.
Talking to the right people and not having junk parts that are...
No, for sure. Parts make it very reliable, which we raced a lot of years without the hood coming off. So that you have to have a reliable setup to do that.
And even then, though, the parts weren't, I mean, I'm not going to say junk, but there was never anything, and still there isn't really anything exotic about your car. Like, you can order the stuff on Summit.
Right, exactly.
Well, that's the best way to have it anyways. I prefer non-exotic parts.
Right.
Because it's
absolutely.
so much better. I'd rather something I can get at O'Reilly's if I can.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and if something breaks, you can get it quick or in a timely manner. I mean, that's the time we've been going through. I feel like we're on the way out of it, is part lead time has been, you know, insanely long just the past couple of years, but I feel like we're on our way out for sure.
Well, even the uptick on like raw materials cost has, of course, just funneled into everything. Like, what did chromoly tubing?
Dude, when we did your cage, I think chromoly tubing was like around $6 to $7 a foot was like what I was getting for.
And I think it's double now.
It was
you
like
were saying
15 like a couple months ago when I checked. It was like
that's
$15 a foot. And it's like, what? And it's come down since then, but still, it was like, it was at a high. I'm like, you get out of here. Like,
and that makes people not want to do them either.
Exactly.
Yeah, you avoid doing a cage because of the cost. Oh,
it doesn't make you faster?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
You got to just like buy a roller is the best way to get into it.
No, I do believe that too. I mean, I've seen a lot of nice cars for sale for fair money. Sure, they're expensive, but
you couldn't replicate
time and money is,
because like chassis jail is a real thing that I've seen a lot of people get burnt out in, and that's why these cars usually end up as rollers. But chassis jail is a scary spot to drop your car off at.
I totally agree.
Sorry to put you as the chassis guy. Sorry,
I have 3 bays, and there's only usually 3 cars in there.
Well, I'm sure you know firsthand than other chassis shops that.
Yeah. I mean, I get that. Machine shops are, you know,
the same.
I mean, but you got to look at it like it's a machine shop that takes so long to get anything done. But at the same time, look at all the equipment they have to buy, and then look at everything they have to do. And if they make one screw up, look how much money that costs them. It's like, I get it, you know. I mean, it's like nobody wants to get into that industry either, because who's got millions of dollars laying around to just like, I think I want to start doing machine work, you know.
Right.
And it's like, we really need to take care of the guys that do good work, because
well, I mean, some tubes took us 5. Sometimes a day, 6 hours.
Well, but that was before we
had that super cool software you should have bought.
I know. I should have known that it was.
Shout out to BenPack. Or BenTech.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, man, BenPack's really got some cool stuff.
Yeah, I wish we had that software.
Yeah.
My engine builder, they'll do like runs, like they'll do a bunch of Coyotes, then they'll do a bunch of 2Js. So you kind of have to like get into their cycle of like they'll do like 15 2Js, and then they'll get to because they have to change their whole machining around, depending on what engine style they're gonna do. So you're waiting.
If you know ahead of time, you could plan ahead, and then you could get in line. And
if my cylinder head could tell me when it was gonna fail, that would be ideal. And some smarter people than me that have more sensors probably can tell when their head gasket's failing. But I'm a little more.
I will say that's one thing that I've been most impressed with is the amount of sensors and stuff that you can put on cars. And like Shawn and I were just talking the other day about what was it? It was a steering position, wasn't it?
Yeah, steering angle.
We were talking about steering angle. I'm like, why do you care what your steering angle is, you know? And they've got like a $low motorsports sensor mounted on the rack. I'm like, who cares about that? And we started talking about it, and he started explaining, you know, hey, if the car's starting to go to the right, and you can look at the steering sensor, and you can say, oh, you know, you're not steering that way. It's the car driving you that way. I'm like, I never would have thought about that. And
even on the anti-roll bars, they put
Pressure
sensors.
sensors.
Pressure
cells,
sensors
yeah.
to know how the anti-roll bar is acting.
Yeah.
Like, I get shock sensors, and I ain't even elevated to a shock sensor yet, and they're already elevated to anti-roll bar sensors. I can't even keep up with them.
Darcy's car's got a brake pressure sensor. I'm like, why do you care what the brake pressure is on this thing?
Yeah.
I was looking at what's it called? Devin Vanderhoof's car the other day, like looking at the photo and just zooming in on all those sensors. He's got many wires on that thing.
That
He's a
thing's
wizard.
a rocket ship. It's got so many sensors on it.
Oh, it's cool though.
I
It
feel
is
like
very cool.
I feel like both of our setups have a lot of sensors,
Yeah.
but then you look at like Devin's car where you're like, holy cow, I'm
Right.
slacking.
Testing stuff for people that you haven't even heard of yet. And
Yeah.
like those kind of things. Yeah, because next level. I don't want that many wires in my car to begin with.
Yeah.
It's a lot of wires.
Weigh you down.
Well, also,
That's the way I look at it.
I worry too. You start like almost get overload of data.
Where you might look at these sensors and forget about this one over here. Yeah, it's you only have so much time between rounds.
Yeah.
But if you are chasing a problem and you have you have, like he said, your core sensors, this is what you're looking at run to run, but then if something looks askew and you go look in the data over here at all those sensors and you're like, you can notice some things, especially like obviously he's very good at tuning and whatnot, so he's very quick to, this sensor did that, let's look at that.
Well, when you're running like a lockup converter and like all those sensors on the lockup and stuff, I'm sure
There's
it has
all
in there.
sorts of stuff.
Does it have a lockup in there? I feel like it probably does.
Well,
It does.
It does. But
I was just guessing.
The weight is swinging around.
Yeah, the weight is in there.
It has the lockup converter. You
Yeah.
just have to actually lock it.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't need it.
We were thinking about like a big light switch. You just just flip it on.
Just on the. You could put it on the wheel. Just
You
like,
could.
Just grab
that could
the
be your
lockup.
scramble is what you're talking about?
Yeah. It usually, it's pretty hard on things though.
Yeah, you're
Very.
either going to beat the guy or drive over the crankshaft. One of the two.
Hey,
Well, you have a big motor now, so you can kind of get away
Yep.
with it. The small motors, it's pretty hard on. Like my
Right.
car, if I put a lockup converter in that thing, I would definitely drive over the crank.
Yeah.
Not even a question.
that would be rough.
You have to be on the money when you lock up a 2J.
Yeah, and your setup is very tailored to if you have one or you don't have one. And when you do, if you tailor it to using it every time, you have to use it every time.
Well, like when you see Garrett's El Camino lockup and it goes like 235 out the back, you can visibly see that car like lock up, and I've talked to them. It rattles. Like it shakes when you lock it up.
I'm sure.
It's hard on things.
I'm sure it's violent. I mean, going 230 is crazy as it
In
is.
an El Camino, it's
Right.
not like a pro mod.
Go
No.
230 in a stock bodied car.
When it was
Especially that's that
3,200
heavy.
pounds.
Yeah,
I think it's like 35.
I believe
Something like,
it.
it's
That
not a
is-
light car.
that is wild.
Yeah.
He's crazy.
But I mean, I guess it's a little different in that too, because I wanted to talk about the common safety stuff that I keep seeing in the NoPrep with like the long travel, the wings, the no front ends, like
Right.
Because when you're trying, like if somebody was saying like they go 230 and they have like long travel suspension and a big wing, that'd be really scary.
Yes, very, very.
It's kind of a different realm almost. But
Yeah, NoPrep is all about innovation, I think. And that's kind of how it's so crazy to watch. You see all these crazy cars with turbos in the trunk or dumb butthurt bars.
yeah, who came up with that one?
It was just sometimes I just sit there and I just stare at things, and I had looked over data the prior year to see how to improve. That prior year was the year that we struggled and sucked. And it was the first year of the big block, so a lot heavier in the front.
So for people that don't know, the butthurt bar is a bar that comes off the back of a vehicle 5-6 feet, it looks like.
Ish.
And they put weight back there
Yes.
to try to get the weight moved, I guess.
To get the weight moved using less weight.
Okay, yeah. So for people that don't know what we're talking about, and you
Right.
coined this bar.
Yeah.
But
From the
TM.
From the get-go, I told Brad, I sent him a little picture of the back of my car with the little paint marker lines and a square weight on the back. I said, hey, I want to build something like this. He said, shut up, you're lying. Now, Brad has known me for a long time to know I come up with a lot of ideas.
It does.
And some, I'm joking. This one I wasn't.
Brad seems a little more reasonable,
We
too.
weren't
So
sure whether... I thought he was joking at
See?
first. And he sends me this. He's like, what do you think about this? I was like, what?
I had a feeling he was serious because he always comes up with these weird ideas. And I believe I told him no. I said, I don't want to do that. Like, no, screw that. And then he
You
was just
probably
like,
did.
And you said, well, if you don't do it, I'm going to find somebody that will. And I said, okay, well, it looks like I'll help you.
So then you guys decided to build this bar off the back, and I guess that it doesn't need to be light. It doesn't need to be chromoly. Was that just...
It was
It
chromoly.
was,
it was
chromoly.
chromoly.
It weighed about 30, 40 pounds or something, just the bars.
How long was it?
About that
I think
long.
it was,
Yeah.
wasn't it like 7 feet from the axle?
I don't remember exactly.
Wow,
There
that's
are
pretty
people
spicy.
that have tape measured it, though, if you want to ask your audience.
Yeah. Somebody out there probably is sitting home frustrated right now with their 9-second streetcar that was all pissed about it when it came out.
There was a lot of people that hated it, and yeah, I mean, we had made one. That isn't the first one that came out. We had made one, and I knew that the backlash that it was gonna get was gonna be tremendous, just because a person that had done well, when someone sees something out there like this, they're gonna hate it.
Yeah.
Right.
Because this guy is winning. We can't have him winning more because of this obnoxious butthurt bar. And we made one, and I said, Brad, you're going to have to stand on it to make me feel good about it. And it held him, but it was a little wobbly.
Well, you also have to realize when Joey does stuff, I'm trying to think of a nice way to say this.
The PC way.
I
He
know
kind
where
of
this
is,
is
he's
headed.
kind of a cheap ass, and so I believe
It's
the car at the time
economical,
still
Brad.
had the factory bumper crash
Right.
things. And,
Yes.
you know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about?
The
Those things
Fox
that-
body has a crushable
So
thing in the back.
The parachute
Like
and
a
everything was
30-pound
still
thing.
mounted to those.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why don't we take that? He's like, no, I don't want to change that, you know. And I think it's like a Rock Solid Motorsports parachute mounted to that.
Yeah.
And like we had to mount off existing stuff to it, and like we kept doing it, and it was to the point where when I would stand on it, the back of the car would roll in, and I was like, okay, well, this is not going to work. And I kept saying like, well, how's the parachute going to deploy? And he's like, we'll figure that out later. Let's just figure out how to get this done. I was like,
Nah,
well,
you don't use your parachute most of these.
Right.
8-mile
Well,
guys.
that's another thing they could complain about. Was that,
Yeah.
oh, well, it's not
unsafe.
safe.
You mount
Yeah.
the parachute to the bar.
You could. We didn't, though. But either way, we came out with a second design, and it was very, very stable. Went out and did some testing. Obviously, I did some scaling, and it was tremendous, the amount of percentage, front and rear percentage, that moved with what little weight. And I had done some mathematics with this to know how far back we wanted it and how much it should
Was
move.
there a software for that?
No, unfortunately.
Joey likes,
had to do it
Joey
on
likes
paper.
to be the from the Hangover, you know, when all the numbers are going.
Yes.
That's what Joey likes to do, and
Yes.
I'm like, huh? No.
Yep.
Yeah. So he had a mathematical number in his head. We only need about this much weight, and like I think you tried it, and it was way too much, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very aggressive. Whether it was just in motion made it aggressive, because obviously when you scale stuff, it's just
Sitting.
static.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I went out and tested with it on this road by my house and nearly wheelied the whole way the first time.
Without the door, wasn't it?
Yes.
I got a
Yes.
picture, a video. Of it.
Yep. And it was very promising, honestly, to do what I wanted. And at the time, we also added air shocks in the front. And a lot of
front,
people didn't even know about the air shocks for the longest time. They probably still
Until
don't.
today.
Yeah,
They
until,
probably
until,
still
until you
don't.
told him.
I didn't know about it, but I've never looked into the
Right.
front shocks.
No, because there was so much travel, there wasn't enough oomph, and these air shocks would provide extra oomph. And you could
Get
turn
it
them
over
on.
the edge.
based on whatever you wanted in the advanced tables and blah, blah, blah. You know, there's people out there that love advanced tables.
In their CO2 power.
You get a Holly
Yeah.
guy talking about advanced tables.
Right. Right. So
Sure, your ear off.
they would turn on if you were spinning. They would turn off if you were at full travel. You know, there's a lot of stuff that went into it.
That's pretty trick.
And
Oh, yeah.
so,
It's
yeah,
cool.
this was before the long travels were a thing.
Right.
Also, I had like the first set of shocks that were like super long travel. And
So somebody had to make those custom for
Yep.
what you were trying
yeah,
to do.
Ron G did from Afterworks, and this was one of the first set that were this long, and so it was two different things. People were like, "What is going on here?"
Yeah.
And it was a fun year. We definitely won a lot. I mean, it was banned the first time I brought it out of the trailer, and just.
Did it fit in the trailer like that too?
No.
So you had to have it removable?
So the very first race I went to, I knew what I was gonna do, and I pulled the car out, got the golf cart out, whatever, and backed the car up the trailer ramp, and we had been parked off to the side a little bit, and put it on and pulled it out of the trailer, and just like what, and the people just flocked.
Like, what is this
It
contraption?
was, yeah, it was insane. I mean, nobody had ever seen anything like it before, and
Nobody thought anybody would try to do anything like
be
that.
dumb enough. I mean,
Nobody thought anybody was adventurous enough.
there was no rules against it till
Adventurous
then.
is a good
Yeah,
word.
there's rules now.
Yeah, this is adventurous.
Yeah, so no, it was a lot. It was cool, and it worked extremely well, and did what I wanted it to, and
I think anybody that's ever seen the videos of it knows it worked pretty
Oh, yeah.
dang well. I mean, it was like just nearly dragging, and the front end was still the wheels, the tires were still on the ground, but it was like you were looking up. It was defying all laws of normal drag
Yes.
racing that you watch.
it was very wild for sure. I mean,
People thought it was a wheelie bar.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody said it was
It's,
a wheelie bar.
I guess
There-
you could just claim it was.
Yeah.
And then you can't really outlaw it, right?
well, they
Well, most
outlaw
small tire
wheelie bars.
stuff,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
it doesn't allow
But-
bars.
Either way, it was cool. I mean, I used it a lot, and there was lots of, it made a lot of people, a lot of promoters think about what they were doing for sure. I mean, it got banned several different events.
Yeah, I mean, when they call it no butt hurt bars allowed, you know it's
yeah.
specific to you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a guy out there that copied it length for length and tape measured it and everything. But, I mean,
Did he even have the Heims?
no, he didn't.
Oh, okay.
But either way, I mean, it's out there, and we used it for a couple years, and then, like we talked earlier in the podcast, that this last year we just didn't street race at all,
Yeah.
honestly, and it's just not it's not the same as it was before, and
Yeah, it's
The
probably
butthurt
not
bar-
needed on a track surface.
oh
either.
no way,
Only on
no
a
way.
terrible street.
Yeah. No, we've actually refined the combination now to where maybe we won't need it as much. Yeah. But either way, we don't do a whole lot of street racing anymore, and it was a fun and cool phase, and now it just sits in the garage.
I feel like the argument could be made, though, that it was safer than weights that people normally put in the back of their car.
And that was my biggest argument. I said, you know what? I don't care if you ban the butthurt bar, but you need to start making sure everybody's ballast
Yeah.
is bolted down properly.
Because I've seen some scary looking weights put in cars.
Oh, yeah.
Some
I
very-
mean,
Oh,
You did
insane.
it back in the day. Remember the dent on this other car? I mean,
Well,
people
yeah.
just chuck stuff in the back of there. You
Oh,
know?
Yeah.
Sandbags, whatever
Yeah.
it is. I mean, but
I've seen bags of tools and
Yeah.
nuts and bolts in a craftsman tool bag just
Yep.
put in the trunk of a
Even
car.
like the weights, like a 45-pound plate that's
Yeah.
not like
Not
well
secure,
secured. Like
right.
even secured with like a couple bolts into like some lame sheet metals. Not
Yep.
very good in a rollover.
We've seen sandbags fall out of a trunk before
Oh, yeah.
and just sand all over.
Yeah, in front of another car.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happened at World Cup one year. This Honda left the starting line and it just left sand
Oh,
on
yeah.
the whole track. And
I believe
how do
it.
you clean that out of prep?
Seriously.
Yeah, you're going to have to scrape the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had to scrape a bunch of it, and they were
Right.
blaming the powder coater. They're like, "Oh, it must have been powder coat." I'm like, "Nah, he had
Shut
sandbags
up.
back there."
No way.
And I mean, most of the detractors from the bar are like, oh, well, what if the weight goes flying off of there?
Right.
Whatever. Like, I mean, it's, NHRA's rules is 2 half-inch bolts or whatever,
Yeah.
and that's how it's
It was
secured.
extremely safe.
Yeah. And the
Whether or
bar
not
is
you
bolted
ran
to
into
the-
me, if you ran into any kind of car, you're
Right.
going to get hurt.
Yeah, you shouldn't be that close to the bar.
No.
No other car should be that close to the bar where it's going to hit it
Right.
at any
Right.
point.
It was an easy way for promoters or other racers that were afraid of us to easily naysay, the bar and
Yeah.
Well, I
cause
like
stink.
to laugh at like the street racing kind of a little bit because they claim this outlaw.
Right.
But then when anybody does anything, they're immediately like, "We need more rules."
Right.
I was like, "You were an outlaw last week."
Right.
And now it's like somebody shows up with a wing or no front end, and now it's like, we need a commissioner.
Right.
Like, it's crazy.
We need a committee to make rules and
Well, that's not even just street racing. I mean, small tire NoPrep is there now.
Yeah.
Like, there's all these people, no boosted big blocks,
oh yeah.
stock suspension. Well, like,
They're just class racing.
NoPrep is
Yep.
They don't realize it
100%. I mean, people are starting to talk about weight and whatnot. Like, you are class racing.
The problem is, I think it's gotten to where, small tire, no prep racing, you have a group of cars that are extremely fast, and then you have the guys that just want to go out and have fun. There's just too big of a gap between them.
Yeah.
And the guys that are just doing it for fun, which we do halfway-ish, and they don't want to go out there and race anymore, and so they just get on the internet and cry, and they need their own class, and
I'm fine with B classes, but once you have a B class and then you're like, "Oh, it's 12,000 to win," you're gonna bring out people that are faster than you.
and that's what
I mean,
I've always
it's-
said is
the
money
cream will-
draws.
Yeah, the cream will always rise to the top. And it's like NoPrep started, and, the diversion between average Joe and faster programs has gotten wider, and the B class would be the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah,
look at
it's how it goes.
they say no boosted big blocks, blah, blah, blah. And most of those people that complain about it that much run, we'll say 530s or whatever. And then you have a car like Darcy's car, which he tunes, that is stock, everything Mustang, stock 5.3, and it goes 480s on 8.5-inch tires
Right.
at I-29. Like,
No
everybody
preps.
that's crying can't keep up with that, and
Yeah.
there's no way to, outlaw it.
You can't make rules that are gonna slow that car down that don't hurt the whole field.
Right.
100%.
Right.
It's just how it goes with that stuff. Like, and the more rules you make, the fastest guy that has the more money, he's just going to adapt better than everyone
Oh,
else.
yeah.
Exactly.
And that's going to end up helping him because he's like, "Oh, well, I can just adapt quicker. I can just change my turbo
Put in
setup
more
quicker."
effort and
Right.
Yeah, like it's just the money. I guess it's just going to bring out faster cars. And I see like pro mods, full blown pro mods, street racing, which is
Oh, my
weird to
God.
see.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Yeah.
I mean, even
It's wild.
at the pad a couple weeks ago, the car that was in the finals was like an X275 car.
Yeah, we know
That
them
thing's
pretty well.
spicy.
Yeah, that's a Radial versus the World car.
Yeah, Radial
Yeah.
versus RVW. I was like, so
I mean, it's been,
RVW stopped and they went street racing?
380s or something,
Yeah,
I think.
397.
And
Radial
nothing
versus
against them. If they fit the rules, go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Go win.
I'm not against anybody
100%.
that fits the rules.
Yeah, you can't blame the person that fit the rules.
Nope, not at all.
And go puppy kick if there's money to win, I guess. Like,
Hey, if there's money to win, it is what it is.
yeah, and that car, I mean, a pretty badass car.
It is, for sure. They do really well, and we've raced with them a couple times, and, they're kind of like us. They've got a great engine program, and they're really smart at what they do, and you see that's why they excel.
Yeah, that's why that car was in the winner's circle.
Yep.
It makes sense. And you can give every other team there that same car, and
They won't be the
they
same.
won't be in the winner's circle,
Yeah.
so it doesn't even matter, really. It's
No.
kind of the whole combination needs to work.
Right. Right.
I mean, it's like we were talking about earlier. His car, you could build it on Summit.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You put it in the right hands, and it's a lot faster than a lot
Right.
of other combinations.
Well, even like the wings, they were trying to rule out the big wing. 'Cause they're worried. I mean, was it Ryan?
Ryan
had-
flipped over. Yeah.
I don't know if it was the wing's fault. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
I
can point
don't
out
know.
to that, but they were claiming, I guess they don't want, like I saw people saying they don't want to line up next to a car
That's dangerous.
with a big wing. I was like, oh,
It's the
This
butthurt
is
bar all
crazy.
over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
how do you point that the wing is dangerous?
Yeah, you can't yet. I mean, at that dig or die race, the car that won didn't have a wing.
Yeah, I think
So-
Charles does pretty well at those deals.
He does.
With
He has
Patches.
2 cars. The Patches car doesn't have a giant wing, but his other car does. But it ain't in the winner's circle yet.
Yeah.
I mean, they do extremely well on that backside stuff, and they're really good at what they do. But I just don't think that the wings are definitely helping. Otherwise, no one would have one. But
Of course,
I don't feel like you should ban them.
I mean, it's got to be adding weight back there. It's not like I don't think anybody was surprised that
Right.
a big wing does exactly what
it's
every
supposed
other
to.
form of racing understands that they do.
Right.
Like Time Attack doesn't just have wings on accident like that.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
A Viper doesn't just have a wing like that just because it looks cool.
Right.
It was kind of funny. I was like, well, yeah, of course it's gonna work. Like
Exactly.
kind of how they work. Well, Beer Money had one forever.
Yep.
Nobody
Yeah.
said anything because it was so funny looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Lyle drives that thing.
Yeah, they do really well.
You guys competed against that car, right?
Well, we
In the
competed.
build-off.
Yeah, not that particular car. It was their they built that car the season prior.
Okay, so that
But-
was what show was that? Was that
Horsepower
Horsepower
Wars.
Yeah.
Okay,
It
Yeah,
was a pretty cool show. I mean,
yeah, it was fun.
they did what 3 seasons of that?
I
Yeah.
think so.
I think they were hoping to sell it, like get it taken off and sell it, but
Yeah,
and I think there's ways they could have made it better, but I mean that's
for sure.
Yeah, so they did 3 seasons. You guys got to do a build off in the second season,
Right.
And then the
I
cars.
think Nick Taylor did the one in the 3rd season too.
Okay,
But yeah, Lyle, they did the 1st season and then won, so they were able to come back and do it again.
yeah,
And then the Australians won
Yeah.
our season.
Yeah, they're really cool dudes, the Australians.
Yeah.
it was a cool show when it was going, and you guys built a cool car at the time. I remember too, right?
Yeah, Cutlass.
Okay, that's what it was.
79 Cutlass.
I couldn't remember which teams built which car. I just remember
Yep.
Yeah.
the
Ours-
cars were all pretty
Biggin
cool.
had the wagon, the
Yep.
Granada, I think
I think it was a
With
Granada.
the big
With
ass
the-
hood scoop on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
Basically a Fox body wagon.
Yeah.
which and it came with carbon fiber snorkel and
Yep.
all sorts of crazy stuff. But yeah, that was a cool car. And the Australians did the
Fourth
that
gen
F
Camaro.
body. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Which is
the-
funny for them because that's not
Oh,
something
well,
they know about.
That was. I think they were last.
They adapted really well.
They were the last ones in the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they're big guys.
yeah, and they got it. And they're like, we're just gonna ladder bar. it."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Ladder
"What?"
bars.
And it worked. I mean, hell, they ended up winning the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see them that they did win because they are like genuine good guys that were there to have fun. And the what was the other team? Comp Cams.
Dream Team.
Dream Team.
Or
that
whatever
thing
it
was a show. I mean, it was that whole
Hired
group-
guns, basically.
Yeah, that whole group was begging to be a disaster. So
Yeah.
I don't think anybody even put them on the radar.
Well, I feel like Beer Money's the only car that's still around from that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's obviously not the same
Yeah.
parts,
Part
but
of it also was that in the first season, nobody got to keep the cars unless you won.
correct. Yeah.
I think that was kind of silly. 'Cause
and then
what are
they
you gonna-
tried to sell
Where
them,
are they
and
at?
they couldn't even sell them.
Yeah, because it's like, what are you going to do with them? Like,
I mean,
let
you
these
build
people
a
took
car-
2 weeks out of their lives.
To give some detail, you build a car in 10 days with $10,000. So literally every corner you could cut was cut.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
why would you want to buy somebody else's car like that unless you were attached to it like us? In our season, there was a trailer fire on the way to Georgia where the race was. We built the cars in California, and then when they were on the car hauler to Georgia, the trailer caught fire and burned several of the cars to the ground. Luckily, not ours. And then they went back and were able to rebuild all of them, except us.
Yeah. Because ours was the one that didn't get burnt.
Yeah.
So you guys got to just hang out while they
Yeah.
had to rebuild
But
them.
you know, when they got back, the cars came back with like
The Comp Cam's car had a 25.3 cage in it.
yeah, because
and-
it was heat compromised. Oh, and they got a Mark Mickey shifter in there, and it's like what? Like
Yeah.
you know, there's a bunch of stuff you're like, where did this come from? Come
Right.
on, you know?
Yeah.
But they couldn't
starts to
even
get
do a
shady.
burnout, so
But at that point, I mean, it's kind of like, who cares, I guess. Like,
Exactly,
what are you
but-
going to do?
Yeah. It was a cool experience.
ideally, what they should have done is built the cars, and as soon as the cars were built, then you go race. That's
Yeah.
what they should have done.
Not drive
But-
across the country.
Well, and that's what they did in the third season.
Yes, and
They literally were there building them, and then the next day went and raced them.
yeah,
I think it is funny because Beer Money gets like this perception of it's like super budget.
Yeah.
And
Not anymore, but
they all kind of like your car too. People probably think it's like super a budget.
oh
a lot
god,
of
I
the
hope
time.
not anymore. That thing's
like-
$1 million car.
Yeah, because Beer Money's got like all badass parts in it everywhere you
For
look.
sure.
yeah.
But then like you just cut a couple corners in a couple spots, you put some shitty stickers on it, and suddenly it looks like this real beater.
Yep. Yeah.
Mine's one of the shitty stickers.
Yeah, you can kind of fake it a little bit.
Yeah.
Even though it's got like you look at the cylinder heads and you're like, oh, 6-volt LS heads on there. That's
No,
some
yeah.
very nice
Beer
stuff.
Money's a serious car for sure now. And
yeah.
they do good with it too. You know, Lyle's been racing it. I don't think he raced it a lot this year, but he
I think he
raced
tried to
it.
go a little more legit this year
Yeah.
with his racing career.
Which
No,
he's doing very good
nothing
at
wrong
that.
with that. Yeah.
I mean, if you want to step it up in your racing, you probably.
Yep.
I don't know if many top fuel cars want you racing a
Right.
Beer Money on the weekends.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
They might need you to be doing the
Yeah.
real racing in a way,
Yeah.
I guess you could say, or televised stuff.
Right.
Probably get
Right.
a contract, and I mean, like NFL players aren't allowed to do that kind of stuff, and
Right.
Formula One drivers can't go skiing, stupid things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Got to protect their investment.
Right.
Exactly. But then the rules are so funny. I know I've heard a lot of people talk about like trying to shoot for where the class is going to be next year and how you have to think about that. And even with you with twin turbos, do you feel like, oh, maybe I should have a Pro Charger on there? Maybe
Oh,
I need
not
like,
at all.
because I feel like everybody's like, I need a
Not
big
at
block
all.
with a big Pro Charger.
No Pro
or-
Charger?
Nope. No, I don't think I'll ever have a Pro Charger, to be honest. But I'll never say never. And I do feel like, you know, the turbos did really well, and I think they'll continue to do really well.
Is the Pro Charger really thought of like if you have to pedal the car, it's instant, or is it just like, because I know you can make the same power with both.
For
Why
sure.
would suddenly everybody be like, oh, you need a.
I think it's by influencers. Influencers show that this certain combination does really well because they're winning, but that goes back to the point, you could give anybody the beater bomb, they're not going to do the same as they do. I feel like it's the person behind it that is doing well, and it's any combination in the right hands could do really well. Are Pro Chargers easy to work with? For sure. You don't have to change boost. It always is what it is, so you just manipulate timing, and timing does what you tell it every time because it's obviously electrical, so
It's way quicker than
Yeah,
boost
I
to
mean-
react.
timing pulls out when you tell it and how much you tell it, so
Yeah, and if you do that in a turbo car, you could end up making more power.
more boost because less timing makes more boost. So turbos are definitely more challenging and turbo lag, but as we've seen this week, turbo cars are out there setting records, and I feel like turbo technology is on the rise. Is it because Pro Charger has done so well? Maybe, but overall, I think it's all good for the sport. And yes, there was a few posts. Maybe some of the viewers would have seen we have trolled heavily what the
That's
beater
nothing new for you
bomb
guys?
was gonna come out with in 2024. But I guess obviously by this you'll know.
Well, for you, almost, you kind of want people to be like chasing the flavor of the month or the new thing.
Yeah.
Because if you can get somebody to keep changing their shit every couple weeks or couple months, that's probably good because they're never going to really dial something in. So
Yeah, it'll be much tougher for sure.
yeah, so if you can kind of convince people to keep chasing that next target instead of dialing it, because I've seen that so many times, people just like something doesn't work on one pass and they're like, I
Change
need
it
different
up.
turbo kit.
Yep.
I'm like, you made one pass.
I know. It's tough. I mean, you always want to keep getting better and getting faster, and I don't feel like a Pro Charger is in my future to do that.
Well, with your size turbos too, I mean, I've only seen the photo. They seem healthy.
Yeah, they're pretty
imagine you
simple
can make-
88s.
Which you downsized because they were bigger.
Yeah, they were a lot bigger. This is more of the trying to get weight off the back. I told Brad I wanted to put them in the trunk, but he told me no.
I told him that was dumb. And I'm not going to do it.
But it could have ended up like the butthurt bar thing.
Yeah. Well, I look at it the same way as when you hit the intercooler in the back.
There was that one 4th gen that put them in the passenger seat. You ever
Oh,
see
yeah,
the photo
that
of
was wild. Yeah, imagine one of those things blowing up, though.
And it was only for like a week, I think.
Yeah,
really?
I don't know what happened.
That
Why.
looked scary.
And that was a big tire car. too.
Yeah, well, I don't remember his name, but yeah.
He also runs, now you run comp turbos.
Yeah.
So they're oilless.
Oilless.
Okay, yeah, you just have to grease them up every now and
Yeah,
then.
every once in a while, which pretty easy. And
And he's had good luck with them.
oh fuck, I mean, yes, I love them.
I mean, yeah, it's a new thing. I remember hearing about that, and I was a little scared. But you still got to run water to them, right?
No,
Oh, okay. Because
only if they're drag and drive.
okay,
Recommended if you're drag and driving them.
because that's what threw me off. It was like, cool, they're oilless, but then you have to put coolant through them. So I was like, well, it's the same amount of lines.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
almost more complicated. To
Not
run
in
coolant.
a full race application.
That makes sense.
You know, if you, I mean, like Brad's car, for instance, he'd drive it to get ice cream and to cruise it around. Probably wouldn't need coolant, but your car, when you go on them 1,000-mile drag and drive events, you would want to have coolant in there
Yeah.
because you're driving down the highway for 6, 7, whatever hours. So yeah, I mean,
Well, even the Garrett ones have both. I think A lot of
Right.
their turbos are oil and
coolant. Yeah.
Which I don't know. I guess at some point the coolant's also a lubricant if you actually run coolant. So
Yeah.
some of those OEM style ones probably rely on that as part of their lubrication.
Yep. Otherwise, no, this year we switched. Comp came out with a new design. I've been a guinea pig for a lot of stuff, I will say. Some works out, some doesn't, but I do feel very good about these new ones, and I think they're going to do great.
That'll be cool to see because Precision's been pushing a lot of their new next-gen turbos across the board too, which... Shout out to Precision. They've worked with me a lot. Their next-gen turbos are pretty much just the size up
Yeah.
with a housing that makes them size down.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like their next-gen 80, 86 is really just like an 86 housing with like a little cover kind of in there.
To make it a little smaller.
Yeah, so when you measure it, it seems smaller, but they make
More power.
way more power than...
I heard they're coming out with a titanium one.
That'll be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what one of the cars we tune. He's switching to their next gen
Yeah.
88s.
Well, if people have never like held a turbo, they are way heavier than you would
Oh,
imagine just looking at them.
Yeah,
They
so
weigh a
imagine two of them heavy things hanging out front.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
steel, like a whatever cast back housing on a turbo weighs so much.
Oh yeah,
And that's why every year he wants to move him back further and further.
yeah.
Just keep pushing them a little bit
Right.
farther. Just harass them a little bit more.
They're
Yeah.
wedged into a little spot right now that I'm like, this is so dumb.
That's why we had to go to the smaller ones, as he was saying.
Well, have you looked at like Steve Morris's car? How he like the wagon?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
He's like in the back,
he's sitting
and
in the
everything's
back, yeah.
so far back.
Yeah.
That's like a crazy layout.
That's a
on that
pro
thing.
mod though. I still have stock front suspension, stock
And a
firewall, and
Stock
just,
front, yes.
yeah. This year we did switch to a 4-link.
Yeah.
Convinced Brad to at least do that.
Well, because
It's
Fox
like
bodies
tugging
are
his chain
kind
every
of
time.
four-link.
Well, to me, okay, so call me stupid, but I'm like, hey, if you have something that works and there's classes out there that you fall into, and then you're going to go and change something that might move you out of a class that you may not be able to race to, and you already have it working. I think he just is like, I'm kind of bored with this. I want to try something to make it a little bit more challenging. So let's change everything.
That's kind of how I say it.
How much tech really happens though, where they're gonna somebody gonna lay under your Fox body and be like, "That's a 4-link, not a."
Oh yeah,
it doesn't have the little uppers.
You really question that?
When you win, yes, they will.
Oh, but they'll do anything to ban you.
I've been at tech for like a not street race,
right?
Or not like a
a street
style.
race. All it is basically tire size. Yeah. But yes, there are some small tire events out there that are implementing much stiffer rules, and if one guy continues to win that class and then they put a rule against you, oh yeah, they're gonna do whatever they can.
Somebody's gonna look. I feel like if you crawled under the wrong person's car, it would end poorly.
Oh yeah, you get a foot to the neck.
Yeah,
really easy. Yeah. It ain't the first time that's happened.
Yeah, I can imagine. Can we hear about that a little bit? Like, what happens there?
There's just people that go a little bit too far, you know? It's like, hey, we don't do this. Like, you don't look at certain things, and there's some people that just start crawling around, and you got to put them back in their place. I mean, nothing seriously, but it's just like, hey, man, what are you doing?
Especially now. I mean,
right. Not anymore. I could care less.
Yeah. But there's
back
like
in
an
the
etiquette,
day,
I guess you would say, about what you do and don't do.
Like it's obviously been, like you said, very public knowledge in the past that his car's very secretive, and then you come out of the trailer and somebody's laying under the back of it, like or the front of it. It's like, what? Why?
What are you doing?
You know better.
Yeah.
Huh.
Like you're still not gonna beat it.
Yeah, I guess like what's looking at the competition really do for your pass? Like you still have to do your same pass.
I look at it exactly like whenever somebody pulls up in a Ferrari and somebody walks up to that person like, what do you do for a living? Because like you have to have this secret trick that I just don't know, and then I'm going to do that job and I'm going to get a Ferrari. Right. It's not the same thing, you know?
Nope, not even close.
Yeah, that's interesting. You see Holly's whole deal with the street racing stuff. They don't
I heard about it.
And, you know, my opinion was like, of course they're not sponsoring street racers. Like, why would they?
No,
It doesn't make sense. I was like, like they have like a stock on the New York Stock Exchange. Like, they're a $1 billion business.
Right.
It's kind of an interesting thing.
You can't be endorsing crimes. Generally,
it's like I highly doubt there's a lot of
committing them.
There's a lot of sponsors for sideshows, you know, which truly gets drag racing and street racing confused. But yeah, like nobody likes that stuff.
Well, street racers are a little different, whereas they're trying to hide and they want to do the whole street race, whereas somebody on a sideshow is trying to be noticed as much as possible.
Yeah,
the street racers are kind of different, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, you don't have a ton of sponsor stickers across your car.
Not nowhere else but the back window. I've definitely been offered a lot for other areas, but you know, you got to keep the looks pretty normal. I mean, I say that, but I had a butthurt bar hanging off the back. But still, I mean, I race with the front end on every time, and you know, there's a part of me that cares about the looks, and I just think that if you had a sponsor sticker like big wow, you know, on the front or whatever, it's just a little much. Like
like a Fig Newton sticker.
Yeah, or you know, any company. But I mean, there you get to a point in your racing career where sponsors do help. I mean, it's a big financial deal driving to the races, you know, taking time off work, and just overall racing is expensive, which is probably why, you know, we're in this era where there is going to be an A and B small tire eventually. And I do appreciate all the sponsors that do help me out, and I'm to the point where I don't even have to ask them for help anymore. And the Beater Bomb has done exceptionally well throughout several years now, and I've kept the same car, which I think helps. Yep. It's not like I'm selling one and getting another and selling all those parts that were either, you know, heavily discounted or given. I mean, there's no secrets to hide here.
Right.
Like I talked before, I've been a guinea pig for several brand new parts that have done extremely well in my program, and then I promote that and they just sell hundreds of them, you know.
He's
and
like Vin Diesel whenever he goes to get the parts.
100%. I've seen the wheelie burnout. Where the car's up in a wheelie and it's still spinning the tires.
Yeah. But what I'm getting to is racing at the level I'm at would be difficult without some help. Would it be possible? Absolutely, but it wouldn't be the same. Financially, that's just expensive. Winning isn't exactly guaranteed. Do we win a lot? Absolutely, but I feel like that's all based on homework and time spent during the week ahead of the race. And when you get there, hopefully everything goes smooth and you
Being
just
able to
smooth
read the
sail.
surface.
Yeah. Knowing what the surface is gonna be, comparing it to other surfaces that you've raced at, and
so
choosing
with
a
the
tune-up.
sponsor stuff, though, I find it so interesting because when I talk to like a sponsor, like I'm like, oh, I'll go to this event. There's full stands. There's a live feed. All this stuff. It's so weird if you're like, oh, I go to this street race.
Yeah.
And there's a full crowd and there's
Yeah.
all these live feeds and stuff because I feel like that's just so counterintuitive to like the street racing hidden.
Yeah. And I don't think that's what they're looking at. They might be looking more so at we all have a large social media presence, and that is what helps tremendously. YouTube videos, 1320 filming those street races, not necessarily promoting the companies on your back window, but using XYZ parts to win the race is probably a big deal.
I've heard of it in like Street Outlaws where, you know, a company will send them all this stuff, but they don't control the edit at all. So like,
Yeah,
they
and that's tough.
kind of just get like gutted a little bit on that deal. To like maybe a hat gets shown.
Right.
Maybe.
Right. That's a tough area. And I mean, as a company, you're gambling. You're either gonna do well or you're not. And
yeah, I mean, the car could get wadded up on the first pass.
Exactly.
You sent them all this stuff, your motor, trans, all this good stuff, fancy, and then like kind of just be a dud. You have to kind of hitch your wagon to the right person as well. Probably why I don't have that many sponsors. You know, they want winners out there.
It does help. I do feel like a strong social media presence helps. The way you present yourself helps. You might be out there just being a good old boy, and somebody might see that, and not because you're winning, just because the way you treat people maybe, and the way you talk, even on Facebook, the way you talk can really steer somebody wrong. And there's a couple people out there that are, God, I just can't believe the way they talk. But hey, it is what it is.
I know some people that like they're sponsored by companies and they end up being the middleman for half of these companies, like sales of things. Like
yeah,
like, oh, you want to buy this part? Reach out to this person and they'll, you know, explain to you how it works.
Yep.
Like, man, you're a full-time employee now.
Yep.
That's wild.
I mean, I've been in that shoe before, and that's like I said, I was basically an R&D guy for Hughes for several years, and I mean, it worked out good for him and worked out good for me, I'd say. So
yeah, they just bought didn't they just
Reed,
right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
No, that was Circle D.
Circle D.
Circle D.
yeah.
oh,
Reed.
Circle D,
Yeah, because well, the guy that was at Hughes,
Pete.
Pete went to,
and that's who I worked with at Hughes too. And honestly, I feel like that was their guy. Like no one really runs Hughes anymore, honestly.
Well, it's tough. Converter knowledge is not like there's a few people that you can really get like a good grasp on a converter from, on what it needs in there. Even half of these converter guys accept that half of it's black magic.
Yeah.
And they just kind of know things that work, even though they may not know exactly why it works that well. It just does.
No, Pete was he still is obviously a super smart guy with that
very good
area,
resource
yeah.
for converter stuff, or I mean, really any driveline type
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, like Jason at ATF, who does my converter stuff, like he's in a weird situation because a small motor trying to do that, get
Yeah.
on the brake,
Yeah,
not
that's
use.
tough.
We don't use the dump valve to get on the brake, so it's a little bit more of a challenge there too. But then not have 100% slip out back.
Right.
But you guys probably have a completely different thought process on how much slip can be worked into the converter.
Right. Right.
You can use that to tame your car down pretty well.
And racing 1/8 mile versus quarter mile is
Yeah.
a big difference too.
Yeah, you probably don't need a big ass cooler on there.
No, don't even have one.
Yeah,
That weighs me down.
man, it's so much easier in that stuff. You don't need all that.
You should move to Nebraska. It'd be a lot easier. As we come down here for vacation.
I feel like the only other place I would go to would be like North Carolina for street racing.
Yeah.
It's like Midwest or North Carolina area.
Right. Then, I mean, in the Midwest, up and down, it's pretty heavy, I will say. But
Yeah, no prep or street.
yeah, no.
But we can also contribute to that too. A lot of the tracks are, haven't been around, and then
Yeah.
you got to realize when a track's only open so many days a year, in
Right.
that hey, it could rain on those days, and we need to get as many people out there as possible.
You
to
guys
any
have
of
a
the
new one
tracks.
about to open by you, right?
In Kansas City. Yeah, we got
Flying
H is getting ready to open up, which would
That's
be
cool.
really, really cool. I'm excited for that. So
And it's like a super
it's nice.
nice
Yeah.
Top
facility.
notch.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
It looked like it concrete to
Oh,
like
yeah.
the 1,000-foot.
and there's
that's
like a
really
hill
nice.
that goes up at the end, and
Yeah,
Well, because
you
it's been
shut
touch
down.
and go with a couple different tracks there. Great Bend, I think they had a big concrete issue, right? Was it Great Bend?
That one was in Kansas. They closed, I think.
Yeah, I think Great Bend is done.
It used to be an airstrip.
Yeah. And that was an interesting one. There's a few that are touch and go out there, which is
Yeah.
which
I mean,
is tough.
every year you see 3 or 4 shut down.
Yeah, go away.
Well,
You
it's
don't
even
see
harder-
3 or 4 get built, though, is the bad thing.
No.
Well, I mean, it's even harder in the Midwest because you got hot and cold, and that changes everything with the track. And like at least
Yeah.
down here, it's kind of just most of the time it's pretty decent. So
Well, and to start a business that isn't going to run all year,
Right.
kind of
That-
sucks.
that
It's
is
probably
tough.
not gonna, make a lot of money. I mean, let's be honest,
yeah.
tracks aren't
yeah,
cash cows.
No.
You definitely
They're
only get
expensive
into
to run.
owning a racetrack if you've already done something else, or you
Yes.
really, really love racing and
Right.
you have a different business
Yeah.
Right.
that can
Yeah.
sustain you.
Yeah.
Like, because
This
Victor,
is just a write-off.
yeah, because
Yeah.
like Victor down here, he has induction performance, and then the racetrack is kind of like a passion thing more than it is like
right.
Yeah.
his only source of feeding his family.
But racing down here is different. It's wild to just see how they pack the stands at Bradenton.
Yeah,
I
it's,
mean,
Palm trees
props to
help.
them for sure.
it's nutty how centralized racing has become to this area.
Yeah. Right.
In the last like 3 years, radial tire at least. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of is the only spot for the fastest radial tire cars, and big floppy tires is
Yeah, that is wild.
Yeah, it's cool to see though.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
and the fact that you guys can race
And we'll be
so often.
we'll be there tomorrow
Yeah.
watching some racing.
What do you guys have you guys seen any of the NoPrep King stuff? I'm sure you've dealt with.
Yeah, we
street
went
hours.
to we raced at the Tulsa NoPrep Kings.
Yeah, we've raced at a few over the years.
Yeah.
We raced at one in Topeka.
Yep.
They
that
do
was a
pretty
few
good
years
payouts
ago.
there
It was only $5,000 to win
Okay.
each day, I think.
for the
They had
small
a-
tire.
Yeah.
for small tire.
Yeah, for small tire. I mean, small tires like just some peons.
Yeah, and I mean, they even tell
They
you.
told
when
you
register,
ahead of time.
Hey, you're the sideshow. Like when we need you, you need to be up
least
here
they're
making
honest.
passes.
No, I agree.
and when we don't need you, you can F off over
yeah,
there,
I
basically.
mean, you're basically sitting in the staging lanes waiting for an opening to go
Yeah.
race.
I
and
mean,
they'll
it's
run other classes around you,
Yep.
but they tell you that up front.
Yep,
They're
they
not-
did.
Yeah.
it's hard when you got a screw blown Hemi next to you to not be more of a show than that. Like
I agree.
Zoomies on a screw blown Hemi is pretty much peak entertainment.
I
At a
agree.
Well, I mean,
racetrack.
and so I was talking to some people a while back, and we were talking about dragon drives, and they were talking about like, well, it kind of sucks because they cater to all the faster cars. I'm like, but I realize that, but you have to understand what's going to pack. Get people in there
Yeah.
to see these, and people want
Yeah.
to see fast cars. Nobody really wants to sit there and watch a car go brrrr down the track.
Definitely
So,
not.
I mean, I get it, but at the same time, those people paid money to race too. So it's a catch-22.
That's the
tough.
no time debate as well. A lot of people don't want to watch No Time,
Right.
because they don't really. You don't have any gauge.
Right.
It's only pass to pass. You don't have like, oh, he's the fastest guy here.
I mean,
Right.
who wouldn't share their time anyways? Like,
I didn't for a long time.
The last one I was at, they weren't giving slips.
Yeah, I believe it.
or they're
That's-
giving your slip to the other guy.
or you paid the guy to give it to him. You know,
however that works
That's
out.
happened too.
Yeah.
Well, even like some people are super crazy. Like if they see somebody in the tower, even near the,
Oh, we used to be
That's
those
system.
people.
That's been us.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've,
And then they
we've had
started-
some arguments.
Yeah, they started showing times to these events that we were going to, and we were sitting on the sidelines seeing how slow these people were going and how much money we were losing out on. And then I was like, you know what? I'm tired of sitting over here. So then we showed times and
Want some money.
went 5/10 faster than everybody else. And
that'll ruin
Oh,
the
well.
class.
oh yeah,
That'll put a change to some things.
It's
Folks don't like
tough
that.
for them to swallow, I will say. And they're like, wow, didn't realize it was that fast.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, is what it is. We'll see what happens this year.
We're
And
talking like a 450 pass at this point. I
yeah,
guess.
when everybody's going 520s.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a guy race that went 490,
Yep.
but
Yeah, you'd
What-
have to do a lot of things wrong at the starting line to lose to that guy.
exactly.
A lot,
I
yeah.
mean, half the runs I didn't even floor it and just coasted to 470s. And
These are the kind of problems Joey has.
yeah,
Blip the gas on him a little bit.
I mean, just I don't know. It's bad to say, but yeah, you're just so far out on them, and it's like you don't need to push it that hard.
Save the wear and tear.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Packing the
it
shoe.
sucks. It's kind of boring to race like that, but maybe it'll motivate them other racers that they know who we're talking about. Obviously, maybe it'll motivate them to push their envelope and push their program a little bit harder. And
It does one of two things. It either that guy won't show up for that race again, or the other guy will be motivated. Like there's two
Yeah.
types of people, and you can't help the guy that's just not going to show up. He's just
yeah,
Yeah.
that is what it is.
I mean,
Gotta weed out the weak.
I've always said, you take away the money and I won't show up. So that's
You
all.
can't-
That's all it takes.
Wait,
You,
You get-
can't get
you get-
faster not showing up to the racetrack either.
Yeah.
You get money.
Wait, you guys are getting paid?
Well, they got that Shady Side race coming up, right? I think that's the
Yeah.
golden ticket one that they keep posting about. Is
Yeah,
that
I
the
did
one?
see that.
Like 50 grand to win. That's
yeah,
a pretty
prepped race.
and it's cool too because it seems like there's some really solid competition there.
For sure. I mean, you're getting a lot of the high dollar cars. It's just so hard for us to travel that far. I mean, you're talking 20 some hours of driving. Again, you're coming to somebody else's home track, which doesn't deter us usually. But those guys have a lot of money. They're going to be there all week testing, and
And it's a prepped
it's
race.
prepped race.
Yeah, that's interesting that because it seems like a lot of no prep cars.
Yeah.
It
are
does.
invited, but it's like
feel
semi-
like that's because they want to get a larger spectator count. So you get, guys that people want to watch.
Big names.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
Of course. Well, if you're doing an invite race, how are you not going to invite people that you know about? Like,
Exactly.
like if I put on an invite race,
Right.
I don't know about the guy that's fast in his home track that doesn't post about it.
Right. Exactly.
Kind of only know about. I think about people like Nick with Hustle and Horsepower.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he is a great example of doesn't have an endless budget,
Right.
but his cars are always competitive,
Yeah. He does very well with what he's got for sure.
and he's had the same engine for a long time.
Yep.
Same turbos, just different chassis, changing things, constantly changing something.
No, yeah, he's always trying to improve with what he's got. He does really well at most of the races he goes to, for sure. He's one of those guys that is where we were at a few years ago. He is right on the edge of just winning. He just needs that little bit of push. And it's not because he doesn't work hard, for sure. I think maybe just a little bit of luck, and he'll get there for sure.
Yeah, sometimes everything just kind of has to come together for
Yep.
the right
Yep.
few passes, because you really, to win an event, you have to be able to put 5 passes together.
Yep.
5 good passes, and that's it. You don't have to think about winning the whole race. You just have to think about 5 good passes
Exactly.
that weekend.
Just the next one.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you could just kind of stack a couple going. But I was talking about No Prep Kings because I keep hearing about it not coming back next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of your area a little bit more.
The rumor mill swirls
rumor mill.
every year.
Well, let's put them out
with
there.
No Prep.
No,
Kings or-
we have heard that Discovery dropped them. Don't know why.
don't know if it's true.
Don't know if it's true, but we've obviously seen the shows start to go away, fade away. We went on the Fastest in America
Yep.
in Vegas for 3 weeks. It was a long.
Oh, wow. That's a long
deal.
time to be out of a
Yeah,
race.
and that was the last. Or no, they did Mega Cash Days right after that,
Yep.
and those were the last
When
two
they finished Fastest
street
in
raced
America.
ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like actual public street that
Yes.
they rent them out.
Correct,
Of course. They're
yeah.
not like.
Well, Fastest in America started where we went was on a public street, and then when they finished it, it was done at an airport
Yeah.
that they
Which
had
is where
rented,
Mega Cash
and then
Days was.
Made it kind of look like a street.
Yeah.
Surface.
It's funny because they zoom out and then you're like, who put all those lights out there?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a thing anymore.
Even at the street, I mean, they have big
Yeah, they
light
had
towers
lights,
every 50 feet, porta potties, and the whole.
Oh,
But like
yeah.
No Prep Kings, those are specific cars for only that style of
Yep.
racing. There's
Oh, yeah.
no other racing that is going to allow those
Nope,
cars.
that's their class. They obviously have. They
would
have a
have-
lot of rules.
like the factory roof quarter cars that are
your
pro mods
wing can
underneath.
only be so big, and obviously tire
Yeah,
size.
we went to it was in Topeka when we went to No Prep Kings. We rolled through tech, and small tire tech was nothing. I mean, they looked at the tire
Yeah.
size and the cage cert, I think.
Yeah.
And then we watched them tech a couple big tire cars, and they're measuring ground
Turbos
clearance,
and
measuring
Wow.
turbos.
oh yeah, because there's a weight for. I mean, it's class racing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Pro Mod or Radio versus the World
Yeah.
on No
And they're
Prep.
all serious cars. It'll be interesting because I know, what is it? Pilgrim is
Yep.
who puts that on.
Yep.
And I think there was a crash that somebody died in.
Oh yeah,
I think that's
was
the
at
lawsuit.
Fastest in America.
That's
That
the
was the
lawsuit that they're dealing with is why it may not come back.
yeah, that was the
I
race
heard-
we were at.
I heard it got settled, but yeah,
Yeah.
And I don't
deal.
know anything besides rumors, which is why I feel comfortable speaking on this. Sometimes on this podcast I speak on things that I know inside knowledge on that I shouldn't speak on. This isn't one of them. I
Yeah.
don't actually have any inside knowledge, just things that I'm trying to gather from seeing what other cars people are building.
Right.
Maybe some of these no prep, because I heard they haven't gotten contracts yet for next year. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting, and they haven't shown the show hasn't come out yet. It was
No,
supposed
season
to air.
6 has not.
yeah, I saw a bunch of posts on Facebook like "Where's No Prep Kings" or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously already been filmed.
Yeah, the season 6 has, but that's why I don't think Discovery signed them for season 6. So now it's gonna. Just my theory.
Yeah.
To
It's gonna come
a
out on
streaming
something
service or
else.
something.
Whether that's Hulu, I don't know.
I have
Man.
heard that they were gonna do it again, like
Yeah,
No Prep
season
Kings.
7?
Yeah, that they were
This
gonna
coming
film
year?
it, but maybe didn't have an outlet for it.
It's
Yeah.
tough because these guys need big paychecks to do this.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
somebody's going to have to fork out some hefty money to make that show happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
And if not, these cars are gone.
Are
Yeah.
serious.
Yeah, they are some serious racing programs, they're rigs and
And I think, I talk about No Prep Kings because people always make fun of Street Outlaws, but those are real racing. Like this isn't
Oh,
like
yeah.
TV show
100%.
racing. Like that's
no, you race the other guy, one guy wins, and
it's not TV show racing at
no,
all.
the only time they ever told us, hype it up and stir some drama, and
Yeah,
the
it's
only
like the
bad thing
talking
about that
portions.
is, are you guys for real or
Right.
Are we for real fighting or are you just TV fighting?
Right.
I mean, I'm serious.
Are we
That's
for
how
real?
it.
yeah.
That's how it felt a
Are
few
we
times.
for real betting money, or are we just joking around?
Exactly. That's
Like-
the other thing.
Because people throw out some
You-
big numbers, and you're like, "Well, do you actually want to bet that much money?"
Yeah.
Or
And they're
this for
no,
real?
no. We're not.
we'll
we're-
do $100
yeah,
or whatever.
not
but-
10,000.
Yeah, but we're gonna say it's $5,000.
Yeah.
because
It's
it's
like
good
Monopoly
for,
money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
you have to check.
Yeah.
Like that's a
You
real
should
thing.
bring Monopoly money.
Because generally, in the past, when people used to bet us money, it was always real money.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, but now you're like-
that's what we're used
Now,
to.
now we're kind of
Yeah, if somebody's at the starting line and they say, 10 grand on a car, you'd imagine that's not just so the microphone hears it.
Yeah, if we lose, somebody is going to want $10,000.
Right.
Huh.
So that was the only thing. Otherwise, the racing was real. The cars are racing each other, and
Yeah, people
the drama was only stirred up.
There's no predetermined winners of these races.
Yeah, no.
Especially with NoPrep Kings. I mean, I know I know a bunch of those guys, and that shit's real. Those are real baller cars with real billet Noonan motors in there and
it's
screw blown.
wild.
And they are
Pro Mod
really leaning on
adjacent.
them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Pro Mod with steel roof.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only difference.
And stock wheelbase.
Heavier Pro Mods.
Yeah, they don't have the wheelbase and they don't have carbon bodies.
Yeah.
It's so nutty that those cars only exist in that one realm.
That's it. But like you said, they pays a lot to win, and
well, I mean, they
get paid a lot to be there.
Big tire NoPrep. Outside of NoPrep.
Yeah, outside of NoPrep Kings, big tire classes, nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Nothing.
if NoPrep Kings goes away, maybe you'd see more of those cars,
They're going to have to go somewhere.
Right.
Well,
There's about like 25 cars.
I just don't think they're going to race that caliber anymore. It just costs too much to not get paid that much or be able to win that much.
Yeah, well, if those guys don't get a contract, they're not showing up.
No
Of
way.
course not. I think you already saw it with a couple of them didn't get their contracts renewed and they didn't show up.
Right.
Or they'll put 28s on them and show up to NoPreps that pay
that's
50
what
grand.
That's what I've started to see is they're either building a small tire car or have a small tire car already. Which, I mean, there's no doubt small tire is a pretty popular racing category.
Somebody shows up with a screw blower
in
in small tire. It's pretty nutty.
Happens.
I mean, it's cool, but it's freaking wild to see. It's a cool world we're living in.
Yeah.
Freaking NoPrep screw blown on the street.
No, for sure.
Somebody's starting it with a spray in the blower hat.
But like you alluded to earlier, there's such a variety in surfaces, and like NoPrep Kings, for example, like
the NoPrep Kings we went to, real good.
it's a racetrack. Like
It's
you could get
real good.
You could get a car on a radial down it. Quickly.
Well, Topeka is a pretty high level track.
Yeah.
It's not exactly like your back.
Well, and that's all the tracks they go to, too.
Yeah, they're only racing it like we raced at Tulsa this year.
Tulsa this year was the one we went to.
It was a racetrack.
Dallas, Vegas, those kind of tracks. They're big tracks. Yeah, because they need the stands. The stands.
So no, it's only a NoPrep.
Right, because they
on the first day.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with season 7. I'm curious.
I'll be curious to see for sure.
Yeah, because if not, those racers are going to end up somewhere else as well. And they're all high-level teams. They're not just going to disband. They're going to be in some racing, Pro Mod or X275.
They've spent a lot of money on setups and whatever.
Quit their jobs.
Yeah, don't have jobs, etc.
Yeah, their job
they got to
is
do
racing.
something.
Right. That's their job.
And luckily, I guess for the smarter ones or whatever, they've adapted and do YouTube and whatever else.
Merch and all that helps.
They'll sustain without NoPrep Kings, I would assume, as long as they keep racing and
definitely the
content.
top 16, I think, could.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they could find somewhere else to go race. It just would be unfortunate to be racing at that level and then back down quite a few levels.
There ain't another big tire event out there that pays 40 grand. Not even close.
I don't
Especially
think
not every weekend.
Not really any kind small tire, big tire, doesn't matter.
Shoot, I mean, Pro Mod to win this weekend's 32 grand.
Yeah.
And that's a big race.
Yeah, and you're not going to win that with a steel roof and quarters car.
And there's not as much of a. There is a point series, but they had a point series where you can win a bunch of money that way too.
Yeah,
$100,000 at the end of the year is a pretty big thing to fight for.
That is.
Yeah, and when you're racing on TV, obviously, like we talked about earlier, the sponsors are a lot more willing to spend some money because you're on TV every Monday.
It'll be interesting. I know NoPrep King gets hate a lot on, but I think they brought a lot of people into.
No, for sure. I think it was super good for the sport.
Like you go to the races, and there is. I mean, you go to a lot of
booger eaters.
Yeah, you go to a lot of NoPreps, and there's a lot of spectators. But you go to NoPrep Kings, and there is a lot. Of booger eaters.
That's what we call them.
It's a different crowd for sure.
They are different.
They only know that.
Yes. Which is cool.
TV.
I mean,
But they have an avenue to watch it on, and they have an avenue to keep track on it, whereas it's not.
They're coming to the racetrack and spending money at racetracks, so I mean, hey,
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
Shawn will eat boogers for money.
Yeah, hey,
I mean, hey, you know,
$20 is $20. You know?
these race cars ain't cheap, dude.
No, they are not.
No.
The one thing that I can't stand with any race that doesn't use a tree is if I hear anybody, if I'm watching a YouTube video and I hear his tire cracked, I turn it off right away. I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm gonna go find something else. I'm gonna go mow the lawn. I'm out.
I'm gonna agree with you on
Yes.
that. Like if you were at a racetrack,
Use the tree.
fucking tree.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
there for a reason.
Oh my god.
It'll-
Even for the finish line.
Yeah.
I don't want to see some dude run backwards with a flashlight
No.
at the tree.
Right.
Just use it.
Wind lights.
Yeah.
Roll out everything. Like use the damn tree.
Right.
It eliminates so much.
Instant green. I don't
bullshit.
care.
right,
I don't
right,
care
right.
what style tree
Yeah.
you use.
But use the timing system.
At least just use the red. I don't even
Yeah.
in the wind light. It's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't stand that. I can't stand seeing a tree just not get used and then hearing arguments about
we're-
it.
Yeah, we've been in. I don't even know how many arguments.
Yeah.
Over tire cracks or cross or this and like. If we just use the system,
I
We
think
wouldn't
that's
have
why
this
we
problem.
like to track race also more.
yeah, so much less drama.
It's so favored when you go to these other towns and
You get
just-
localed by the homies.
yeah.
People start to know the starter,
yeah.
how that
exactly.
like not know him like personally, but know how
Right.
they
Oh
operate.
yeah.
I've
yeah.
seen that too. They're like, oh, this starter does it this way.
Yep.
I'm
And
like,
racing is so tight now. People have gotten so much faster and everyone has gotten so close that you can't lose it on the tree. You
You can lose it on the tree.
lose it on the tree just because you're a little bit later or whatever.
Yeah, that'll make or break for sure. I mean, yeah, if these pro mod guys are like the pro mods are a great example. If they're not on the
Yeah.
tree, or even James Tall, he races Ultra Street.
Yep.
And it was like a 00 to an 006 loss.
Oh my
like it's like
gosh. Yeah.
so hair
That's
like
tough. That's class racing though.
yeah.
I mean,
Like
that's
everybody
heads
is
up
so
ra-
tight,
yeah.
you got to be so good on the tree.
Yeah, and I've never bracket raced,
No, me neither.
so I don't really have that background like a lot of
No.
these guys do, where they bracket race their whole life, so it's hard to catch them off on a tree
Yeah.
at all.
If I go in 050, I'm happy.
Yeah,
Like that's good enough for me,
This guy.
especially when you got a half second on everybody else. So whatever.
you can afford to. I
Yeah,
guess, a little
exactly.
Bit. Yeah,
I didn't really have to try.
Oh, how was that? Oh, it was all right. Just floored it only for the 60 foot.
that's funny. All right, man. Well, we'll wrap this up. How can they keep up with you?
Oh,
All you guys.
obviously, Beater Bomb on Facebook. Beater Bomb Tuning and Support is my tuning page.
On Facebook as well?
Yep,
Okay,
on
so you got the two.
Facebook. Yep. Otherwise, Jay Hiykel on Instagram, and otherwise Joey Hiykel on Facebook. If you're,
Really trying to get personal.
yeah, yeah. I don't really accept many friend requests, but I've got just 1,000 just sitting there at all
Shoot your
times.
shot is what you're saying.
Yeah, don't even try.
Follow him on the pages the normal way. If you need
Yes.
some tuning assistant, if you want to just ask him about his big block and what rods he's got in there,
I'll charge you. Don't forget.
They're Eagles.
just messaging. What cylinder head you got on that thing?
Yeah, that was the biggest turning point to opening my tuning and support page, is because I got so tired of people texting me, "Hey, what gear should I run?" or blah blah blah. And now I can just tell them, "Hey, that's XYZ," and I'll give you all the info you want.
Yeah, hey, what fire shoes you got?
Right. and I mean, tons of customers out there have been super successful from that because it's so easy. You know, you talk to a guy that has years of experience and you're a newcomer into the sport, but you want to get that extra, step above other guys that are out there just trial and error.
Charge like a lawyer.
Yeah.
The second we start talking,
Yep.
Exactly.
I'm clocking in.
Right.
Have money.
And it's sort of like that. So, yeah, I offer a consulting service where we can look over your program, look over your car, look over your data, and see where to improve. Or if you're building a new car, you can come to me and we can lay out all the parts and
That's cool because
make
also
it trouble free.
like somebody could message you and be like, "Hey, what like shock should I run?" But that's not just a simple question.
No.
That's a loaded. You need to know everything. You can't just
Exactly.
answer that blindly.
Yeah.
And I hate when I see that on Facebook. People just answer a question blindly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what injector should I run? This one. You don't know any.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't know if it's a lawnmower. Like, what are you talking?
Yeah.
Like, how can you answer that?
No, exactly. And I mean, if you're that guy out there and really close to doing really well, but you want to take that extra step and run a little bit better, maybe I can help you, or maybe I can't.
Yeah.
Maybe you're doing really good, and you think you could do better, but you need something else. You need a
you could
different
probably
part,
save them a
or
lot in the long run by winning money.
less
by,
than the cost of the tires.
Yeah, by
that you're
not
gonna
winning
waste.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people look at it the wrong way in that, oh, well, it costs this much for him to help me, but how much does it cost you to go to the racetrack every time you go to the racetrack?
There's an opportunity.
Lose
cost
that
there
entry
of winning.
fee and
Right, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you got diesel, tires, everything else.
Yep.
Whereas when you compare going to the track 5 times compared to what it costs to go to the track with a professional one time,
Yeah.
probably the
adds up
same and better result.
yeah.
Going to the track a few times and fumbling around adds up real quick if you can cut that down.
Yeah, or tearing up
times.
motors and
Yeah.
whatever else.
One great example, like Shawn, his girlfriend Darcy, has we talked about it earlier, stock motor LS Mustang. We just brought it out this year after building it for 2 years. When we're the second or third, we only raced 3 or 4 times, and on a 26.85, we're already the 7th fastest stock bottom end in the world.
Oh wow!
And it is stock bottom end, stock cylinder head,
Yeah.
and stock suspension, stock
That stock
firewall
bottom
Mustang.
end racing is
Yeah.
is fast.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Those guys are
Yeah,
very
it's
impressive
wild.
on stock bottom end. They're all Fox bodies, of course.
Just basically out of the box, yeah.
There is
All 7 of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
All fucked
Yeah, the dumb thing is there's a dragster and a funny car in front of us.
Yeah.
That's
So we're
stupid.
Okay.
It's the 5th fastest door car.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
don't count.
So you get the
then.
jump too. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And definitely I would say the fastest on a 26 for sure.
Yeah.
but
Because it's
most
like
of them are on radials.
Capizzi is up there.
Yeah, you went 451,
Yeah, 450.
450.
450, I think, with a 6. If I
Yeah.
remember.
And then the red one too
155.
is Scott. That was
That's
the
a
red
stock
one.
block.
Yeah.
block.
They
Ah.
went
This is stock
420s.
bottom end.
Yeah.
So
And I think they just put an LT in that car though.
they did.
Yep,
Yeah.
yeah.
Gained like 100 pounds.
Yeah. Because
Interesting.
it's an iron one instead of
The
aluminum.
L8T.
Yes.
Whatever. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what Doug Cook just put in his car.
Yeah.
But hopefully
It's
we can
impressive.
go faster. I don't know that we'll set a record, but
Well, that's because we're not. It's
don't
just
go
so
out there and
hard
try
to,
for it either.
Capizzi used a radial prep racetrack
Yeah.
to do that.
And that's like a pro mod, that car.
Well, and it's just
It's
so
a-
hard for us to get good at radial racing when that's not what we do.
right.
Like we're
slick
not
race.
we're not gonna go radial racing with Darcy's car. We go out there and we know prep race. So and she races a series on 26s, so that's why
Right.
we were on 26s.
Yeah.
So it's tough to go out there and do well on a 275 radial on a radial prep surface because that's not what we do. The car's not set up for that.
I like that 235 racing. I think it's a cool class to try to slow people down. But it's proven that it doesn't work.
Yeah, no.
It doesn't
the
slow
class-
down cars.
The class
No.
we race doesn't allow the radial because it is too fast.
Yeah.
It's the
Yep.
Hoosier slick
Yeah.
only.
So that's what we set the record on.
Oh, interesting, on a Hoosier
Yeah.
slick. You don't hear that super often.
Yep,
Yeah.
they don't allow radials.
I mean, like Devin Vanderhoof again with the 235s last
Yeah.
year. That's
Yeah, that's
epic.
the Mickey Thompson radial tire.
Yeah, the
that they
radial
all run.
235s.
Yeah.
it's
Clearly
wild.
didn't slow anybody
No,
down.
No.
He was flying.
Yeah,
on
didn't
it.
he go 440s or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
Jesus, it's just wild.
With a quarter-mile setup.
Sevens
Still,
and yeah.
So it still was like it wasn't even optimized for 8th mile, and it was
Nope.
going 440s.
No,
Yeah,
that is
so
crazy.
That's interesting. Well, where can they find you guys at? You guys want to plug anything?
Oh,
Talking to the mic. You gotta tell them.
Sorry, you can find me at Vasko Speed on Facebook and on Instagram, And I have a Vasko Speed website. It's vascospeed.com.
And you're full-time doing it
full-time,
since last time you were on.
Yeah, well,
You had just stopped at the dealer.
Yeah, so I'm doing it full time. So I do cage work, turbo kits,
Belly pans.
I make a lot of belly pans. That's something I've kind of got into lately.
Yeah.
Part of that is actually from you. So
Everybody needs belly pans.
dude,
Yeah,
they're
100%.
amazing. They work really, really good. It's one of those things that it's like a trial and error.
Never want to run over your oil and wreck.
Exactly.
Yeah, basically.
So that's one of the things I've really been working on is trying to get more cars and more varieties. But it's kind of a challenge because not everybody can weld. So I want to be able to make them all bolt on.
Yep.
So I'm working on that. And then there's a lot of cars that have different K members, and you don't know if it's going to work with that K member, or if if they have headers or a downpipe or whatever, or transmissions change. So it's doing pretty good. And sold a lot of them so far.
Awesome.
So
I know you do the V2 ones. I prefer a belly pan to a blank to a diaper.
for sure, same here.
I way prefer that. I think the diapers are
Yeah.
they got to create some heat, and I like to see where things drip.
Right,
and
exactly.
The turbo's incorporated in that
Right.
and everything.
The one issue you do have is the rules are made for a rail
Chassis
car.
cars.
Yeah, they're made for a car with frame rails that go like a chassis car, and so you get a stock car and it says frame rail to frame rail. Well, it's kind of impossible to do on a lot of these cars nowadays. So it's kind of trying to make them work and make them have as much coverage as possible. And most of the time, when a rod comes out, it's not coming out the front or the back; it's coming out the side. So trying to get that side coverage is where you want it to be. So I've been really working on trying to get those, and I've got a few of them out now. So but they're on the website, and obviously I'm down here, so they're not shipping out until I get back. But doing lots.
I've seen dents in trackside walls from wrist pins.
Yep. Yeah.
I will say the Fox body belly pans are pretty awesome.
Yeah, they work pretty good.
We have one on there, obviously, pushing a stock bottom into that hard.
Yep.
You should have
It's
some
scary.
containment.
Yeah.
It is very
It's
scary.
another one of those safety
You might want
things.
double containment. Put
It
in
has
there.
it does have a diaper
Yeah.
and Brad's belly
For that
pan
rare
on it.
occurrence, you
I
may
mean,
want
yes.
both.
You're pushing it
But
pretty
it's,
hard.
I mean, like, for the Fox body at least, it bolts right on, and I don't have a lift, so I have to take it off. And
Yeah.
it comes off
Do you
pretty
just
easy.
put it on, jack it up?
Yeah, I just jack up the K member.
I think
take the belly pan off.
If you're at the track racing and you don't have a belly pan, you don't care about the people that are going down the track after
Yeah.
you.
or yourself.
Well, and
Or
that's the
yourself, to
thing.
be real
Most
about
events are now requiring,
Which is a good thing. I think. Before I was like,
absolutely.
you know what? But now it's like, man, that's why not? If it keeps you out there racing longer, why would you not want it?
But I've seen like plenty of times where the guy may have dripped something at 1,000 feet, and they're not going to see it at the starting
No.
line.
No
Right,
way.
exactly.
And then you got to go drive through that, and then hopefully
Yep.
it
Hopefully
works
it's
out
not
for
that
you.
much.
Yeah. Hopefully your parachute's out quick,
Yeah.
and it
for
can
real.
straighten you out. But yeah, I mean that's where it's at.
I did forget on. I came out with some new merch.
Okay.
You can get your Beater Bomb merch at headsupnoprep.com.
Headsupnoprep.com. Cool. I'll make sure I put anything in the description that you guys
Awesome.
in the bio down there in the description of
Yeah.
the video on YouTube. Some people are listening on Spotify. You'll have to go on YouTube to actually get to that stuff. But
Darcy's racing page is Darcy Knowles Racing.
Darcy
So that's
Knowles
the
Racing,
wife's
if you want to
car,
see
yeah.
a
Yep.
stock bottom end LS car, which is always fun. But yeah, that'll do it, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming on. That was a lot of fun. We'll have to do it again. But we will see you guys next time.